So we got Lou Cappelli here,
Mhm.
founder of LTC Photography.
Yep, LTC Photo Creations
Yeah, so
is the full name. Um, it's a all service photography company. We do weddings, do a lot of headshots, you name it. Basically, anything you need done with photography, if it's sweet 16s or any of that kind of stuff. And a lot of what I do is sports photography, and that's what I really enjoy that. The two kind of photographies I think I would say I love the most is like action photography
mhm.
with sports, and I love animals. I love wildlife too. So when I go away on vacations, it drives my wife crazy. I'm always got my camera in my hand.
Hmm.
So if we're touring Rome or something like that, or she's always got to stop and wait for me to take a picture, and I'm
but
doing
but
it
yo, but
constantly.
honestly, that is like, I feel like everyone needs someone like that in their life because I don't know
Yes,
about you, but I'll go away with my friends and I'll come back, talk to my girlfriend, like, you got any pictures? I'm like, oh yeah, I took one, and it's just like a
right,
tree or something,
yeah,
like, it's just something
right,
stupid.
exactly.
Like, I would love to have a friend who's into photography, and everywhere we go, they're taking videos and
Yeah,
snapping away, and we got this whole
this whole thing of
thing of our
photos.
trip, all the memories.
Yeah, and that's it. It's because all you got in life at the end is your memories.
Yeah,
You don't take the money with you. All you got is your memories.
exactly.
And when you can help somebody capture that memory and capture something, and they enjoy what you've done, it's so fulfilling. I remember my first Sweet 16. It was a girl in Garden City. Took went to the pavilion, and I took all these pictures, and I got this one picture of her. She's just, it was just the right lighting. Everything was just perfect, and they hired me. We did the whole thing, and then I brought to them. They wanted a really big photo over, and so I did it. Got it printed, brought it over to the house, and trying to get the box open. And I'm all nervous. I'm like, I hope they like this. I hope it. Because I'm very critical of myself. Like I can never be satisfied, and I think that in some ways that's a good thing. In some ways it's not.
I agree.
And I was because you keep pushing yourself. So I'm opening up with this box, and I'm sweating. The sweat's coming down. I mean, that's how nervous I am.
Is this
And it's
early in your career?
very, very
Okay.
early. Yeah, it's very early. And uh, like I said, it was the first Sweet 16 I ever did. And so I, open up this box, and the mother's there, the father's there, the grandmother's there. I open it up, and I lift it up, and I go to look at them, and they're all crying. I mean, they were in tears of joy. They just loved the photo so much that they just burst into tears, and they're hugging me. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
This is amazing. We're going to tell everyone about you. And I left that place walking on air. I just felt like that's what it's all about for me. That's what it's all about. It's just about making other people happy with the work that you do, and I get choked up thinking about it because it means a lot to me to be able to do that.
Yeah, and, especially I want to. I think this is a good time to get into your background career,
Mhm.
because one thing I want to really dive into is the contrast between the life that you were living
Hmm.
before you started your photography company.
Hmm.
So, you know, in talking about this, this beautiful moment that I imagine since then you've probably had multiple more like it.
Absolutely, yeah.
What were you doing for the last 20 years or so before you got into this very
Well,
fulfilling line of
to
work?
give out my age is probably 30 years,
Okay.
but I went to school, Franklin Pierce University. It was Franklin Pierce College back then. Recommend the school. It's a beautiful school up in New Hampshire. Like I said, I went to school for graphic
Anywhere in New
design.
Hampshire is beautiful.
Was oh no, it's an amazing place to be, and went to school for graphic design, minored in fine arts, and emphasizing photography. And I went into that area because my dad was somewhat in that area. He worked for Philip Morris, a big cigarette company, and he did a lot of the advertising, the
Hmm.
printing and stuff. And like, when you go into like the 7-Elevens and you saw like the Marlboro ads, he was in charge of making sure those got printed right, got set up and sent out, and all that kind of stuff. And I grew up around all these salespeople that used to call on him, and they were charismatic, and these guys were the life of the party. And I used to look forward to hanging out and doing things with my dad's salespeople as a kid because they were so much fun. And I'm like, those are the kind of people that's what I want to be. And so I went into graphic design so I can get into printing sales eventually. And so I started working at the Penny Saver back when it was the small little thing you used to get. And I was doing graphic design. And then another company I was associated with it hired me to do like brochures and more color stuff. And like I said, I spent hours and hours sitting in front of the computer just designing ads and doing this whole desktop publishing stuff. And it just got monotonous. I couldn't keep myself focused. Um, like I said, with having ADD and not even being diagnosed at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm out of college and I still have ADD and don't even know it. And I just couldn't stay focused. I kept talking to the people next to me and talking, and I just love to talk. And my bosses are like, "Lou, just stop talking and work." And I found myself being miserable in it. Finally, I went into another sales job, my first sales job, doing direct mail printing, and they were like, "Here's a yellow pages. Go find some business." I'm like, "What are you kidding me? Like that's how you're training me?
Mm-hmm.
Here it is." And I spent a year there absolutely miserable trying to make cold calls to people. I had a few appointments, met with a few people. Long story short, with that, I ended up getting fired because I wasn't making any sales, and they were just wasting money on me, and I don't blame them. Then I went into what I thought was a marketing company. I was like, "Oh, this is good marketing. It goes with graphics, and I can talk to people." It turned out to be one of those multi-level marketing
Okay, yeah.
things where you would go door to door selling selling AT&T sales to businesses. So they would give you a map and you go to that area and you park your car and you put your bag on your shoulder and you walk into the first business and be like, "Hey, I'm here to help save you money on your bill." And it was a numbers game. The more
Mm-hmm.
businesses you walked into, the more chances are you make a
Right.
sale. And I mean, I got manhandled. I got thrown out of buildings physically.
Really?
I got physically thrown. I ruined a suit by getting thrown out because somebody doing something similar screwed them over somehow. And they were like, I'm not going to use the words they used to get out of this building. Um,
Some crazy
and,
PTSD right there.
oh my God, let me tell you, it gave me a thick skin, but man, yeah, it was every day, every time I had to go to work, it was just gut wrenching. And they weren't paying you a salary. You're only making
Yeah.
commission, no health insurance, no nothing. And,
Were you successful at all? Like, did you were you making some money at some point?
I,
Were,
some money, but not enough. Let's put
gotcha.
it this way: the credit card bills got really big.
Okay.
I had a girlfriend at the time that I was serious with, and she wanted gifts and stuff, and I would just whip out the credit card and just do what I had to do.
Yeah.
I was young enough; I was living at home with my parents at the time, and I was under their health insurance, so at least I had that. But I was not. I was spending more than I was making, and that relationship ended because of that.
Mm.
Because she was like, "You're going nowhere with your life." And I went into pharmaceutical sales. I started, I knew somebody who had a friend who was a headhunter, and I was like, all right, let me do this. And I got my first job doing pharmaceutical sales because I did the multi-level marketing. She was like, if you could do that, you could do this. If you're smart enough to do the science and
Mm.
understand all that. So I did. I went in there. I was in pharmaceutical sales for I don't know, 8, 9 years. And I did well. I did pretty good in that. I had my first job, was there for like 2 years, moved on to another company.
So you're how old when you got into pharmaceutical sales?
I was 20, I want to say I was 28,
Okay.
maybe 29. Moved to Philadelphia. That's where the territory was. Never been to Philadelphia before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a scary thought to like just leave your parents' home, the comfort of your parents' home, to go to a city you've never been to, where you only know one person that I happened to go to college with, and I got an apartment in her apartment just almost just to feel safer, just to feel a little comfort. And then and there was no GPS back then, so I had to find doctors. I was printing out maps on the wall. I'd have a map next to me in the car. Do I
Mm.
turn here? I got to turn. I mean, you think about the way it was then, and we're talking 2000, 99, 2000. It was pretty monotonous. And, but the thing with the pharmaceutical sales was it's very cutthroat. You're selling let's say you're selling a sleeping pill, like one of the ones I was. I'm competing with Ambien and all the other ones, but I'm also competing with every single salesperson in my company.
Yeah.
And my last job, the second job where I got let go because I was at 90, I think it was at 98% of my goal, which sounds fantastic. And it made them a lot of money. But we
But it
had
was
100
short.
reps. We had 100 reps, and I was number 98.
Mm-hmm.
So, 98, 99, and 100 got fired.
Mm.
And I had been there at that company for like 5 years. And I was a trainer. I was training people how to sell. And yet I still got let go because when it came to sales, it wasn't about what you've done. It's what are you doing for me now? And after that, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do this kind of stuff. So I moved back to New York because I had gotten married, got divorced, moved back to New York, moved back in with my parents. And talk about somebody feeling like they're at the lowest point in their life. Here I am, 30 something. I'm divorced, no kids. And I'm back at my parents' house, sleeping in my sister's bed because my old bedroom they turned into a den. They didn't think I was coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Sleeping in my sister's bedroom and having to start all over again. I had bought a townhouse down there. In the divorce, it was a big mess. I didn't come back with much at all. So I'm like, all right, so here I am, and I'm starting just like I did when I got out of college. And
And you're how old now at this point?
at this point, I'm like
Mid-30s?
30s, 33,
Yeah.
34. Um,
It's a
and
tough pill to swallow, I'm sure.
it is a tough pill, but I made my money in the pharmaceutical field, which was nice. But there's a balance in life, and when you're always stressed out about making that sale over and over and over and over again, my personal life was suffering. I just wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I was the kind of person who was always happy, always talking to people, and my personality started to change. I just started becoming depressed and everything else. The bright side of that was that one of the drugs I was selling was an ADD medication, and that's like the hand of God coming in finally to say, okay, because I was reading all of these when we were training. I was reading all of these patient files, and I'm reading all the different ones, and I'm like, wow, all these people sound like me. Like I I have that issue. I've
Mm-hmm.
got that issue. I got that problem. So one of the doctors that I got to know pretty well because I'm personable and he liked me. I was like, would you be open to taking me on as a patient because I think I have ADD and no one's ever diagnosed me. So we sat down, we did all the testing and the questions, everything else, and I was off the charts. He was like, "Oh my God, you really have ADD."
Mm-hmm.
So they put me on the medication I was selling, and all of a sudden things started to change. Went to a therapist, and who specifically works with ADD patients, and taught me how to change some routines in my life that would help with the ADD and how to stay focused on things and find things that grab your interest. And that was a life changing experience for me at that point. Came back, got a job at a company out here, out in Holbrook, and it was a pharmaceutical returns company. And I was there for about 7 years, and I was a national accounts manager, which was really a great job. I managed the accounts that we had. I was talking with our clients every day, and making some sales, and helping the sales reps that were out there make sales. Help make appointments for the people who, the sales managers and their reps, and go to trade shows. I've been traveled everywhere around the country. I think there's only about 5 states I haven't been to yet. So that's on my list to check them off.
What's the best state?
Oh wow, the best state.
Or best favorite city? How about that?
Well, let me
Might be an
say.
easier question.
Well, actually, I would say the best. I could give you the best state as far as beauty goes, and that was Oregon. Landed in Portland. I had to go to Eugene, Oregon, and I forget the name of the other one. It starts with a K. And because I was working with VA hospitals and helping them get their money back from expired drugs.
Okay.
And so I was out there, and driving through Oregon was, I mean, I can't tell how many times I almost drove off the road because I'm just looking around. So Oregon was definitely the best state. City wise, it's a toss up. San Francisco is a beautiful city. I know you hear a lot on today about it's going downhill, blah blah blah. I was just there.
Oh, yeah.
I was just there 2 years ago, and there was only like a small section, maybe 3 blocks, where you saw a lot of homeless people. Other than that, it's not. I think the media tends to play it up to make it sound like it's worse than it is.
I'm sure.
And so, yeah, San Francisco was is a phenomenal city. I mean, I'm a New Yorker. Nothing beats New York, so it's hard to really pick
It
somebody.
is, yeah,
You know,
like no other city that you're gonna go to in terms of um the extremity of how,
Mhm.
like when you see New York, you're like
Wow.
from a distance, like there's no other city. I mean, I'm sure there's some that are close, but few
Hmm.
cities in the United States at least compare to the, how in your face it is. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Yeah.
Other cities have their own unique charm that you might kind
Absolutely.
of vibe with that a little bit more.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's nothing like New York.
Yeah. No, some of the bigger cities I like. Chicago, I liked. Um, Denver is a beautiful city too.
Have you been to Charleston?
You know what? I haven't.
I so my cousin went to school there, and I went to visit her once. Charleston is like it's very small. Like there's no really like skyscrapers or anything
Hmm.
like that. Just a very unique, great place for. It's almost like being in a resort the whole time you're
Yeah.
there. Everything is very um,
Quaint,
quaint.
old
It's
school,
just
old.
like you can feel the soul of the place. I guess
Yes.
that's probably the best way to
Yeah.
say it.
Which
Um,
reminds me, or New Orleans.
I've been there as well. Very
That's
similar. New
yes.
Orleans is a little bit bigger.
Right. I've been there twice, and I love New Orleans. That's another city that's just, it's just the people. It's the people make the
Yeah,
city.
yeah,
The building in New
yeah,
York, the buildings make the city in New York. But when you get to those smaller ones, it's the people that make the city.
yeah. I mean, the people in New York are. That's not always true, of course, but are known for being,
Yeah.
not the type of people that you always want to bump into.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Uh,
Well, my generation too. I mean, I saw a big change. I mean, you guys are younger, but when 9/11 happened, um, I saw a transformation in New York, the whole country,
mm,
but in New York.
sure.
In New York, it's always been, and it may be going back to it a little bit again, but people didn't look at you. Everyone just was going, tunnel vision. I'm going here. I'm doing this.
Mm,
After 9/11, people would smile at you,
mm,
be a little bit friendlier. How you doing? Hold the door for you. Go ahead. You can go in front of me. That's nice. Nice. Things changed after 9/11, and people were friendlier, and that was really when I was starting into pharmaceutical sales. So you found people were a little bit friendlier, but then you go out. I lived in Philadelphia. A lot of the doctors I saw were outside the city, and man, it was like an eye opening experience. You know, I remember walking down the street. I don't know if it was Lancaster, someplace in the suburbs, and I'm walking down and someone's walking by. Hi, how are you? And I'm right out of New
talking
York,
to
and I'm
me?
looking. I'm like, you got a problem? Like, what's up with that? Like, I don't know you. What are you talking to me? And realize that the whole world isn't like New York.
Yeah.
And you get out there and you start seeing the way other people react and how other
Stopping at
people interact with you.
crosswalks.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing. I remember that too. I get to a crosswalk, all of a
Yeah,
sudden all the cars stop, and I'm like,
what are you
why are they,
doing?
why are
Go,
they stopped?
go.
And they're all like, come on, let's go, let's go. And I'm like, oh, okay. New York, they just run you right over.
Yeah.
But when you get out, you can get out and around in the country, and I advise it to everybody: get out of New York. I'm not saying move out of New York
Yeah.
because I love New York and I'm going to be here until I die. Um, but you get out and explore the country and get to know the different people around the different regions. I mean, I've been to Alabama, Mississippi, North Dakota, um, and people are just, it's almost like saying it's a whole nother country, but it is your country.
Hmm.
And you start talking to people, and you realize that even though we're two completely different kind of worlds, we have a lot in common, especially as Americans. We
Right.
have a lot in common, and unfortunately, with today's political environment, that's starting to erode. Not even starting; it's eroding, is what I would
You
say.
can say in a lot of ways gone. I mean,
Right?
it's hard to find. It's hard to
Right,
find.
exactly. And you wonder, like, do we need another 9/11 to happen for us to get back to where we're supposed to be?
Hmm.
And it's sad the way things have gone, and that's only within the last 15 years, I would say.
I'm sure. I feel like maybe even less. You
Yeah, well,
know.
20 years,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
2016 or so,
10
where
even. 10 even.
yeah, even 10. And we as a country have to get back into that. And I think the work I do as a photographer, I feel like I'm contributing a little bit to that because I'm interacting with people and I'm forcing people to talk to me and interact with me, and then I'm giving them a product that they like, and all of a sudden you're building bonds and you're building connections with people that you wouldn't normally know because you're getting out there. And I think everybody today. I mean, computers are an amazing thing, and especially in my field, editing and photography, and AI is making my job so much easier and better. But people have to get away from that computer and they need to get outside.
It's true.
You need to just get out there, get in front of people. Um, for us, socializing when I was younger, we went to bars every weekend. We went to clubs every weekend just to get out and talk to people. And you'd have to talk. If you wanted to meet a girl, you had to go up and introduce yourself or come up with something to catch their attention. Today it's all online. And it's all texting and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I kind of think in a lot of ways there is.
That there's something wrong.
Yeah, I think that, well, first of all, you're taking away the risk
Mhm.
of like what you said, there's something special about having that moment of nerves and deciding like I'm gonna go talk to her anyway, and like you go
Mhm.
up to her and maybe it goes well, maybe it doesn't. Um, but I think it's important to, like we were talking about off camera before, the importance of being able to feel discomfort about something but do it anyway. And when there's all these different things in the world that take the need to do that away from you, I
Mhm.
think it's handicapping people. And I
Mhm.
also just think from a relationship perspective, I think having that little like moment of like taking a risk in that first little bit of banter and like
Mhm.
developing some chemistry, I think is really important. Instead of just we already knew we were interested in each other when we first met.
Right.
Um, I don't. I just think it. I, I'm sure there's lots of examples of times where people have
Mhm.
met online and it worked out great. But I think as a net positive or negative for society on the whole, I think it's a
Yeah.
negative.
I think it's like anything. Too much of anything is not good.
Yeah.
Too much being in front of the computer is not good. Too much talking is not good.
Yeah.
If you just keep talking and
Yeah.
talking and you don't listen. But I mean, you know, I'll give it perfectly me as an example. After I got divorced and I came back, and I'm like, okay, well, all my friends are married. I'm not going to go to a club by myself. It's going to look kind of creepy. So I went on dating sites, and I went out with a whole bunch of different women. Some of them I was interested in, and they weren't, and vice versa. And then I met my wife online.
Hmm.
But
Well, eat my words.
well, no. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, though. It wasn't like we met online and then just got married.
Right. Of course.
I had, we would talk. She doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. So we would talk on the phone, and we weren't texting. We would just talk on the phone, and it turned out we had some things in common.
Hmm.
Turns out my uncle was her pediatrician
Hmm.
and was her kid's pediatrician.
Oh, what?
And she's like, "Oh, you're Dr. Cappelli's cousin." And I call him uncle. He's older, but I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, he's such a great guy. I loved him. My kids love him. You know what? I think I can meet with you. Seems pretty safe." So we met at a restaurant and we had dinner. And I think a lot of kids today would have a hard time sitting down at the dinner table with somebody without their phone in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
I go in there, phone goes off, goes in the pocket. We sat
Sure.
down, we talked, started talking some more. It turns out that my grandfather was from the same area of Italy as her parents. So I'm like, oh, we got that in common.
Where in Italy are you from?
My family's from Bari.
Same, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look at
Yeah,
that.
look at that. I'm going there in October.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I really want to go. Anyway, I don't want to
Yeah.
derail you, but
No, but that's fine. No, I'm going
yeah,
with my wife for her 50th,
that's
50th
amazing.
birthday down to Bari. And we're so looking forward to the trip. And so we were like, oh, we got that in common too. And then it turns out my mom's side of the family, the German side, my grandmother got remarried, and one of her stepsons was renting an apartment in Franklin Square. It turns out it was Rose, my wife Rose. It was her parents' apartment,
Hmm.
and he had passed away outside. It was her mother who found my step uncle after he died. So I'm like, oh my god, that's a little odd that we have that in common too.
Sure.
Then we went to a Super Bowl party at her cousin's house. And I was like, oh, I have my first niece. Let me show you a picture. So I was showing her cousin a picture of my niece and my brother-in-law holding it. And she goes, how do you know Kevin? I go, that's my brother-in-law. She goes, wait a second, Allison is your sister? Turns out my brother-in-law and my sister, because they met at work with my wife's cousin.
Hmm.
I'm like, wow, there's another coincidence. So we just kept kind of, our lives kind of kept going like
Yeah.
this until they finally hit. But the point I was getting at is that I used dating online, a modern, I guess you could say more modern type of technology, and mix it in with being able to sit in front of her, look her in the eye, and have an honest conversation and just be myself. And that's where the relationship started. And it bloomed. And, a year and a half later, we were engaged. And a year later after that, we were married. And so it's, that's why I say it's good and bad at times. It's like, yeah, I'm not hiding behind the computer.
You're right.
I just kind of use it as a stepping stone to get in front of her, to be able to introduce myself to her and let her get to know me and vice versa. And it worked out. It worked out great. And yeah.
It's all how you use it. Like another example would be social media today.
Mhm.
I would once again kind of follow up the same thoughts that I had on dating apps on the whole, that it's a net negative. All
Mhm.
the great things that it brings, I think it's hurting people more than it's helping.
Mhm.
But if you're able to, check social media for 10 minutes a day, get updates on what's going on, see different perspectives and conversations that people are having,
Mhm.
and then put it down and live a
Right.
real life, then that's great. I mean, like seeing, I grew up, I feel like I kind of grew up with the advent of like a lot of these, like
Mhm.
around the time that I would have been getting my first phone. That's probably around the time that the first iPhones were coming out.
Okay.
So like I was kind of riding that wave, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I grew up without it, but then
Mhm.
as I'm getting older, Instagram came out when I was in high school, I think, or eighth
Mhm.
grade, something like that. But for people that are, you know, turning, I don't know, what age do people get like an iPod these days, or
Oh my God, they're
probably
like six,
like,
7.
yeah, yeah. And like I feel like
Maybe younger
phones,
than
you're
that
seeing
even.
like fourth, fifth grade a lot of times are
Mhm.
getting it. But even younger than that, they probably have some sort of like tablet or something.
Right.
If you're growing up with TikTok, and how much more like, cancerous these, like,
Mhm.
because the
And the messaging is off, and you start
yeah.
absorbing the negative messaging and the conspiracy theories and
And
things that aren't factual, because it's not like the old news
mhm.
where they had a fact check, because if you didn't fact check and you got it wrong, you got sued
Yeah, I mean,
and they got in
anyone's
trouble.
just out here saying whatever they want.
Right. And they're saying crazy stuff out there.
Hmm.
You see it all the time. And the kids are just absorbing it as if it's the truth.
Hmm.
And you're not going to get the truth until you get out there and see what's going on in the world.
Right.
And then you can get a good perspective. Like you know, I consider myself an independent when it comes politically. I lean a little left,
Hmm.
but it's probably because of my artsy background, I guess you could say. Um, but I would watch like CNN, and then I'd watch Fox, and I'm like, okay, how come they're talking about the same subject, but it sounds completely different?
Yeah.
Because they have such an extreme point of view on things. So then I started watching News Nation, which is an independent news station.
Mm.
They're not, they don't go left or right. They pretty much stick to the middle, and it gives you a good perspective on what's going on. I'll still go back and forth a little bit with the others, but I'll watch one main one because it fits with my independent views, and then look at that and go, wow, look how much crap they're saying, and look how much crap they're saying, and it gives you a better perspective of what's going on out there. And when you get to know people and you get out there and you get in front of people and then you start understanding how people think, you realize that there's no right or wrong. Everything is gray.
Right. The
And
100%.
it's all gray. And you got to look for what you have in common with somebody, rather than today it seems like people are looking for what you don't have in common. Now, I would say when it comes to relationships and marriage, it's different. I know when I first got married, I found someone that had all the things that I wanted in somebody. I didn't understand until after I got divorced that there's also a list of things you don't want in somebody.
Sure.
And that's an important thing that you only learn, at least I only learned by doing and going through all the drama and then learning from it. And now, like I said, I'm in a marriage. I'm 13 years, and she's wonderful, and everything is great. And but you got to get out there. And
Right.
like for me, as like I said, as somebody who's at my age in my situation, where your friends are all married, a lot of them moved away, and you're starting from scratch, using the internet was a nice stepping stone. But I think if you're young and you're going to get out there, you don't need the dating app. Just go out, go to a club with your friends. If you got friends to go with, and go out and get in front of people and start talking to people. Because if you can learn to, if you can go up to a person, let's say you're a guy, you can go up to a woman you think is attractive, and just start talk. That's intimidating.
It's
To
terrifying.
just try to talk to somebody,
Mhm.
because are they going to laugh at you? Are they going to tell you to get the hell out of there? I mean, it can be intimidating, but it's a good lesson to learn in life, because when you go out into the world, like I said, I did tons of sales. I'm not crazy about doing sales, but even with my photography, even if I don't know it, I'm still selling.
Mhm.
I'm selling me. I'm selling my personality and my skills. And you have to be able to go up to somebody and convince them that you're the photographer that they need, and you're going to do the best job for them. And you got to be able to look them in the eye to do that. And if you can't do that, you're not going to get that person as a client, because if you can't look someone in the eye, then they're like, well, what, you look shady. If you can't look someone in the eye, they're like, well, if you can't look me in the eye, then what's he hiding?
Right.
What's not right with that person? So, with the kids today, I think you just need to get out there and just get in front of people and just talk to people, and just talk. Networking, like we were saying, the networking group. The first time I ever went to a networking meeting, I remember it was after I left the pharmaceutical industry. I moved back here. I'm not working. I got my resume up, and my dad was had a friend who was in a networking group, and he's like, "Why don't you go?" He said, "If you want, you can go and go there." So I go there, and I'm in the corner. It's scared to death.
Mhm.
All these professionals walking around in suits and everything else, and yeah, I'm wearing a suit, but um, they're all business owners or whatever, and I'm just intimidated to no end. And I had to try to get over that again. And eventually, one person came up to me, started talking to me, and we had a great conversation. And after that first icebreaker, I realized, I can talk to anybody about anything.
Mhm.
I just never had confidence in myself that I could do that. And started talking to people. Next thing you know, met this one guy. He's a really nice guy. Hey, I got a company, we need somebody who can do what you do, as far as, being able to talk to people and manage accounts. And that's how I got that job out here.
Mhm.
And my career just started rolling from there. I went from there. And then, unfortunately, they had a big legal problem, the return company. Um, and uh, we lost all of the accounts that I was running, the VAs, Kaiser Permanente, which is a big medical group all the way in the West. They're all over the country. And they're like, well, we've got no more work for you, so we got to lay you off. So they gave me a severance package. I got laid off, and went to another healthcare company, went to an insurance company, and that job was just hell. And so then after that, I was like, you know what? I'm done working for somebody else. I put in 7 years at that job. I was in the office. I get in at like 9 o'clock or so, maybe 9:15, and I would be there until 7 o'clock. Sometimes 8 o'clock at night, and I gave it my all at that job, but it wasn't appreciated. And
Yeah.
when it turns out that the owners were stealing money from the clients, and then I was like, oh, that's great. If I ever run into these people again, they never look at me as the guy who worked for that shady company. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done working for other people and not being appreciated.
Especially for a job that you don't even necessarily believe in, or
Right.
like when the mission that you're trying to complete is
Hmm.
not one that you particularly care about. It's just a job.
Right. The second pharmaceutical job I had, I got fired from, because the sales weren't what they wanted.
Right.
Part of the reason why is they came in with a new drug for us to sell to orthopedic doctors, and it was a hydrocodone acetaminophen mix. So it's kind of like Oxy. And I knew at that point, this stuff is crap. I shouldn't be going to orthopedic doctors with this. I should be going to oncologists, people with cancer patients who maybe aren't going to make it. And, you're not worried about addiction,
Hmm.
because if they have to be addicted to a drug for the next year before they die, it's at least giving them comfort.
Right.
But if you get somebody like our age who's addicted, now you're screwing up their entire life.
Hmm.
So my heart wasn't in it to try to sell this drug. Because I go to a doctor, I'm like, oh, we got this, and here's the benefits. And doctors are like, this is crap. Why are you bringing me this crap?
And you already knew it was crap
And
as you're
I knew
telling
it
them,
was
and now
crap.
you just feel dirty, and
Exactly.
I
So,
get it,
I
I
go
get
home,
it.
I have to take a shower because I felt like
Yeah.
I just felt dirty. Like, if you ever saw that there was a movie about the pharmaceutical drug, I forget the name of it. It was out recently on Netflix. It was a big thing, and they're partying on the and
Hmm.
it was kind of like that. Like we had national meetings where it was big, and everyone fired up, and everyone gets excited about this drug, and go out there and go sell it, and you leave all excited, and then you get in front of your first doctor, and he's like, "I don't need this crap.
Hmm.
We've already got stuff, and we don't need more of it. There's too much of it already." And all of a sudden, like it just brings you right back down to earth. And my heart wasn't in it. And
Yeah.
I just didn't. I didn't want to go to work. And if you don't want to go to work, and if you're on a Sunday and Monday's coming around, and you got a knot in your stomach because you have to go to work, you're not in the right career. You're not doing what you should be doing in life if that's how you feel. Because you got to be happy. And I
Hmm.
realized that I was making money in pharmaceutical sales, but I was miserable. And then other corporate jobs, I'm like, I'm miserable. I'm not happy with my life, and I was depressed. I was on antidepressants, and I just felt like I was going through the motion of life and just waiting for it to end. I'm
Hmm.
like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I gotta do until it's over, and that's not the way to live life.
Yeah.
You can't live life
Assuming
like that.
that's defeat right there.
Exactly. So I was like, you know what? I loved photography. I loved doing it. They even asked me to stay and like be an assistant teacher up there at college, and I turned it down because all my friends graduated. There was no point. And I'm like, I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm gonna start my own company and just do what I can do with what I love doing.
So wait, had you lost your job at this point, or you
Yeah.
were currently working?
Oh,
Okay.
I had lost my job with the insurance company that I was Health First that I was working at.
Do you think that had you not lost your job, you would have made the jump?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. Um,
Because I think that for a lot of people in a similar spot is, like, it's hard to make that jump, especially
it
when you're
is.
very, so in some ways you're very comfortable, and then when you have other people that rely on you, especially. I mean, I can't imagine
Yeah.
how hard it must be to be 35, 40, 45 years old with a family and kids, and
Yeah.
you're like, I hate my job, but like, what are we gonna do, live
Well,
on the street?
I would say half America is stuck in that
Yeah.
where they hate that now. Like, yeah, if that job, if the health insurance job, if I hadn't gotten let go, and if I started to enjoy it more, I may would have stayed there.
Hmm.
But I wasn't happy there.
Hmm.
Um, But at the time, all I was thinking about was money, 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 money. Got to make money. Got to pay the bills. I got a mortgage and everything else. Um, so I don't know if I would have jumped right away. But looking back at what I've done now, yeah, I probably eventually would have.
Hmm.
I probably would have, because you get to a point in life where it's like, okay, you only have so much time in life to do only so much. And if I want to do well and be happy, there's that balance. Do I want to make a lot of money but be miserable, or do I want to make less money but be happy? And I had gotten to that point in life where I was like, you know what? I want to be happy now. I've spent too many of my years being unhappy. So no, I'm not making a ton of money. I'm not making millions of dollars, but I love what I'm doing, and I love getting out there and doing what I do.
Hmm.
And I think that's important to do that. Now, if you could do that and make a lot of money, fantastic. And
Hmm.
I think the way my career has been going, I'll do all right. I'll do well
You're how
over
many
time.
years in
Oh, let's say.
to photography?
Well, like I said, I studied back in '93 is
Right,
when I
right, right.
graduated.
But the
But
business.
the business end of it, I would say it's about 5 years.
Okay, gotcha.
About 5 years. Because it wasn't easy. At first I'm like, okay, I sat down with my wife and I said, it hit me in the shower one day. I was in the shower, and my wife came
That's where
into the
all good ideas are
right.
born.
Right? It's just when you're in the shower. I was sitting there and I was washing my hair when I had hair, and I was like, "What do I want to do? What am I going to do in my life? All I know is graphic design, and I know sales, but I don't want to do sales. I don't want to do graphic design because I want to sit in front of a computer all day. But I'm also really good at photography, and you know what? That's what I'm going to do. That's it. It just hit me. I was like, I'm going back to do what I do well and enjoyed what I was doing. And my wife was like, all right, I'll support that. If that's what you want to do, that's great. But you need to put in your portion of the money for the bills every month. How are you going to do that? So I was like, well, all right, what can I do that's flexible? So if I do get an account, I can't say, oh, I can't do your headshots because I have to go to work. I was like, you know what? Uber, why not? It's it's money,
Yeah.
and I can work when I want to work and not work. My wife goes to bed early every night. She's in bed at like 8:30 every morning. So for me, it was like, let me. She goes to bed at 8:30 on Friday. I'm going to go out when everyone's partying and they need Ubers. Friday, Saturday into Sunday, and that was enough to pay the bills while I was trying to get my photography
Mm.
off the ground. So I just, let everybody I knew in my whole family that this is what I'm doing. And people were like, oh, we have a photographer. We know somebody. And then they passed my name on. And I started getting business that way. But I wasn't getting a lot. And I didn't know much about, social media and advertising. I still don't, to be honest with you. Everyone's like, oh, are you on Instagram? And I'm like, yeah, not really. It's on
Mm.
there, but I haven't done much with it. I don't even know what I'm doing. And so I joined a networking group where we met,
Yeah.
but which is in a phenomenal group, the BNG Long Island group, and they were like, hey, you know what? Why don't we do this? You will offer free headshots to everybody in the group, and then as part of the dues, we'll pay you per person, and then I would give them a discount, like 60% off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm only charging them like one third of what I normally would, because it's part of the group. We all want to help each other out, and I'm not there to try to get money out of everybody.
Right.
And then they referred me to other people, and so that business started going, and I got in with another photography company that was doing little leagues, and they would have kids stand behind a green screen with their bats, and then they would impose in the back. And that company didn't do so well, but the owner of that company knew an owner of another photography company called Legends Photography, out of Valley Stream. And I met with this guy Randy, who owns him and his wife Randy and Christina. And the moment I met them, I knew this is where I needed to be at this point in time. They are, I don't even consider them my bosses. I consider them my friends.
That's great.
And I love working with them. I love going to work. Even when I have to spend hours in front of a computer doing editing, which is kind of like the graphics in the beginning, I
Mm-hmm.
hated doing it. But I got Christina sitting next to me and Randy on this side. And then we're doing this and we're talking as I'm editing and we're having great conversations. And, we're just drinking our coffee or whatever. And we just gel, with them. They're just good people. And so I just loved going there. And in the beginning, I would just work as an assistant, helping set the kids up. And after a while, I'm like, my skills are in the photography. I don't want to be, doing this part. I want to be taking pictures. And they slowly, as I learned their process of photography, how they do it, and I realized at that point, I didn't realize there's different processes. I just knew take good pictures and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a process to how they did things. And once I understood that process, and then I started taking pictures, now I'm one of their more used photographers. And they keep me busy. I mean, they keep me busy. So my business model for myself is kind of a hybrid. So I have my own clients that I do my headshots for. I do, I'll do weddings and sweet 16s, and they pay well. Um, but on the other end, I'm working with Legends, and they've got me working. There were sometimes I worked 3 every day for 3 weeks straight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I had to work every day for 3 weeks straight in those corporate jobs, I'd shoot myself. I mean, it would just be
Yeah.
miserable. But I those 3 weeks flew by because I just loved getting out there and being behind that camera, working with the kids, doing that kind of stuff. And then the other company that sent me to him, they had a smaller side one where they hired me to do action shots, which I really love doing. I'll go to baseball games with traveling teams, and I got, I'm taking pictures of the pitching. I got, guys sliding in with the dirt, and it's just so much more fun.
Hmm.
So that's what my business model is. That's how I'm making my money, is between that and between my own private photography and working with legends. And that's how I got here now. And then on the side, I started my own little driving service because I helped a guy out who needed a driver for a wedding to take people back from the venues to the hotels and stuff.
Hmm.
And then he referred me on to a couple later on after he left it, and this wonderful couple, TJ and Lisa, they're up in Bayville, and I drove them to the airport and then picked them up when they came back. And we had such a great conversation. They're like, you're a really nice guy. Would you mind driving my mother? And I'm like, "Oh, sure. My mom needs to go to the airport. I drive the mother. My sister needs a ride. She lives in Brooklyn. Can you go pick her up and take her? Yeah, sure, no problem. Drive her. Well, they know people. Next, they mentioned to somebody else, and then next, oh yeah, this person just referred me over to you. Can you drive us? Sure, no problem. Before you know it, it just started snowballing over, and all of a sudden I've got all these driving lines. So now I got to balance between my photography, my private photography, working with legends, and my this driving service that just sprung up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But the key to all of that is that I was able to get out in front of people, look them in the eye, talk to them, let them get to know me, get to know them, listen to what they're saying, because listening is so important. And just being able to do that, I've got this little universe of business I got going on here that is it's paying the bills, and saving up and putting. I had pretty bad credit card debt at one point, and got rid of all of that. And now I've got this network of people that I know, and I've gotten photography jobs out of my driving jobs because
I was wondering, like, do you have anything in your car,
I
that
have
like
my
a
business
business
cards are
card or
always in
something?
my
Yeah,
car.
yeah.
Well, they're like, oh, we need another ride. My friend needs a ride. You have a business card? And I go, well, I got my photography business card, and I give it to him. I'll be like, that's my real job. Oh, really? You're into photography? What kind of photography? Next thing you know, I'm talking to all these people about what I do in
Yeah,
photography.
yeah.
And that's how I got the first Sweet 16 party.
Mm.
They're like, oh, really? I got a friend whose daughter's going to be, has a Sweet 16 coming up, and I think they need a photographer. Would you be available? I'm like, absolutely. So I kind of used my Ubering when I first started, and my current driving as almost a networking business, because now I'm networking with these people. Now all of a sudden I'm meeting all these different people, and now they all know I'm a photographer and I only drive on the side, and that's given me more photography business. So, like I said, if I stayed at home and wasn't getting out there, none of this would have been
Right.
possible. So it was important to get out there, get in front of people, and network. Because if you're not going to network, it's not going to grow.
Yeah.
And that's how it's worked.
And yeah, and being able to like speak up about like to, I don't know, steer the conversation. It's great that you kind of have created this like marketing system for yourself
Mm-hmm.
where you have people in the car, you get to do something you enjoy, which is have probably really interesting. I've had some really interesting conversations
Oh
with
God,
Uber drivers in
oh
the
my God,
past.
the stories I could tell you.
I bet. Yeah. um and then, but speaking up about, well, this is what I actually do, because like when I first started a business, and I was doing marketing and stuff for local businesses, I didn't post it on my Instagram. I didn't tell my friends and family. I was
Mm-hmm.
very, I don't know, in my head I wanted to kind of perfect it and get really good at it and have a bunch of clients and then show people my beautiful successful business, as opposed to showing the early stages and the maybe not so
Mm-hmm.
glamorous things, and I guess really taking a risk and putting myself out
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah, you were
So
kind of
it's
putting the cart before the horse. You
exactly.
wanted to show everybody the cart,
Yeah, but I
but
but I
yet
needed
it's
to
the horse that got you there.
exactly. Um, so yeah, so I think I agree with what you're saying, that it's important to just always be selling, like, and in a
Right.
good way, you know. And
Yes.
I wanted to mention before too that in talking about sales and
Hmm.
how, you know, maybe for a lot of people it's not very fulfilling work. It's
Right.
really about what you're selling and how you feel about it.
Right.
If you're selling something that you truly believe in and that means something to you, then sales is easy.
Right.
It's painless.
Yeah.
You know, you enjoy doing it.
You don't even know you're doing it.
Yeah, I imagine you probably love when somebody, you know, oh, like you're into photography, like tell me more about that. You probably are like, yes,
Can't
like
wait
let's
to tell
go.
you. Exactly. I can't wait to tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah, because like I said, I don't like sales. After doing it for so long, I
yeah,
realized I don't want to go back into sales. Without realizing it, I'm still doing
mhm,
sales. But like you said, if you're selling something you feel good about, you don't know you're doing it. So what am I selling? I'm selling me. I have confidence in me. I feel good about what I do.
mhm,
So selling me isn't even feeling like sales. It feels like I'm just having a conversation, not realizing I'm selling myself
right.
to somebody because I'm being authentic. I'm being myself. Like, you know, when I notice when it comes to people trying to find a photographer, let's say for a wedding,
Mhm,
you know, you could go with, oh, this guy's the best. You know, he'd make the best. You got to find a photographer that you feel comfortable with because you got to spend the whole day with them, and
mhm.
you're putting all your most important day of your life in their hands, and you got to sell yourself, but not think about selling yourself. Just be yourself,
Mm,
and if you can just be yourself, then you're going to sell yourself if you're being honest and you're being authentic.
mhm.
Because a lot of people just aren't. They're thinking about sales, and it comes across like this is a salesman. Um, and when you, the best salesperson is a person that doesn't look like they're selling to you.
Exactly.
So
Just
if you're
making friends and
exactly, if I'm just being myself,
mhm,
that's selling. Just I'm being honest. I'm being authentic. This is who I am. All the warts and everything that goes with it. This is just who I am. And either you like me or you don't like me. And when it comes to people and personalities, not everyone is going to like you. It's almost impossible. Everyone is going to like you.
and you're probably doing something wrong if everyone does like you.
Right.
Like I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of there's some people that are either like you can be liked by all or you can be loved by some and hated by some. You know what I,
Right.
like if everyone just likes you, you probably don't have too many people that really love you.
Right. Exactly. And if you put your effort into the people that you connect with, then you're going to build bonds, and they're gonna mention you to other people, and that's how businesses grow. Like I said, with this, the people when I was driving, they loved me. They loved the conversations I had with them. They loved listening to them. I had this one woman that I would drive into the city, and she had cancer, and I would drive her every 2 or 3 weeks into Memorial Sloan Kettering for her treatments, and and she would meet her sister, and then she would go home with her. But I would take her into the city every few weeks, and she was such a delightful woman, and we would have such great conversations that she, I would give her my fee, and she would pay me double.
Hmm.
And I was like, the first time I was like, that's too much. You can't. She goes, you know what? You're saving me money on therapy. She said. She goes, honestly, I don't feel like I have someone I could just blur all this stuff out to, and just get all the stuff off my chest without offending somebody, or without pissing somebody off. She goes, but with you, I just tell you anything, and you just listen, and listening is half of sales.
Yeah,
If
probably
you
more than half.
more than half, yeah, probably more than half, yes. And unfortunately, she had passed, but I cried when she passed because we had built a bond. Me and this woman, and I knew she wasn't going to be around forever,
Mhm.
but it didn't matter. She was a delightful person, and I miss her. She was a nice woman, but I got after talking to her, I got other people I drove that she recommended me to, as well. But yeah, she literally said, I'm paying you for my driving, and I'm paying you for my therapy." She goes, "Because every time I drive with you, I feel so much better afterwards."
Yeah,
And I was like, "Wow." So you can have a positive impact in people's lives if you just listen and you be yourself and be authentic. And to me, that's the success story for me, is just get out there, be yourself, be authentic, don't be afraid to take risks, because you're going to have to take risks.
Mhm.
When I went from one photography company to the other, I was nervous about going over to Legends. I'm like, I don't know these people, and they're pretty, they're probably better photographers than me, because like I said, I'm always critical of myself. Um, and I quickly fit right into the group, and it's like a whole group of friends just working together. It feels like, and if I was too afraid to do that, I wouldn't be that way. I wouldn't be in the position I'm in right now. So you have to overcome these fears. It's like I'm an adrenaline junkie. I love roller coasters.
Okay.
Okay, um, I went skydiving just for the thrill of jumping out of a plane. Um, you got to look at life the same way as that. When I went skydiving, my whole life changed after that, because I was like, okay, you can't put me on a roof. I would be petrified. So I'm like, let me just go over the top with this. And my friend's like, we're going skydiving. So I went back down to Pennsylvania, and I'm like, all right. They put me in this jumpsuit. I look like a fat sausage in it, but you know,
I know that those videos coming out of the plane are never very flattering.
no. And I have a video of it.
Yeah.
They videoed that a guy jump
Your
out
face
with
is
me.
flapping around
Yeah, and
everywhere.
everything was like
Yeah.
this, and you're like, eh. And
That's raw.
and it was it. I was like, you know what? I'm doing this. I'm not telling my parents, because I know they're going to flip out.
Smart.
Now they're going to flip out. I'm not going to say anything, and let me go. And I went up there, and they opened those doors, and that 10,000 feet, and that fresh air coming rushing in, and I'm like, let's just do this. And we just jumped out, and I was like, you got to look at life the same way
Mhm.
as that. Okay, this is intimidating, but you know what? Screw it. Let's do this, and just jump in and take a chance, because and you're not going to succeed every time. In fact, you're probably going to fail more than you're going to succeed, and especially in the beginning, because every time you fail, you learn something new about what you didn't do right.
Mhm.
And so you have to fail. I can almost say, look forward to failing at things, because if you look forward to failing at things, it's don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as a lesson.
Yes.
Now I learned something. Okay, I know that I shouldn't have said that. That didn't work. So next time I'm going to try something else. Oh, that didn't work either. But okay, I know what happens when I say that. I'm not going to do it that way, or I'm not going to shoot somebody a certain angle. I'm not going to. And you learn as you go. You never stop learning. I mean, when I got out of college, there was no digital photography. So now when I decided to go back into photography, now I got digital photography. I got my first camera. I'm looking at it. I'm like, how the hell am I using this thing?
Mhm.
And I had to reteach myself how to do things. And then when I started working with Legends, they're so advanced and they're so good. Randy is such a phenomenal photographer, um, that all of a sudden I'm learning things that they didn't teach me in college, and I haven't learned yet. And now I realize I'm learning all over again. And every time I'm learning, I'm getting better, and I'm getting better, and I'm getting better. And I have a friend, one of my roommates from college is a photographer up in Massachusetts. And he's like, I need a second photographer for a wedding. Would you be willing to come up? And I'm like, okay. Now, first time I was scared to death. I'm like, this is a wedding. It's my first wedding. I'm doing with him. I don't want to screw this up with these people. And like I said, I always had this lack of self confidence to a certain degree, and I just went in and did it. I was like, screw it, I'm doing this, and I had to keep telling myself, I'm a good photographer. I can do this. You know what you're doing. Just be yourself and do what you think. And I came up with different ideas. Hey, did you ever think of this? Let's use this pose with the bride and this and that, and it worked out great.
Mhm.
And I was like, why was I so nervous? Why was I so insecure about myself? I'm good at what I'm doing. And it was at that point when it just sunk into my head. I'm good at what I'm doing, and I should be doing this. And no more doubting myself. And that's when my career changed. And I really started getting really good at what I was doing. And now I don't question my abilities. Now, am I a perfectionist? Yes. Um, do I like everything I do? No. And I don't ever want to like what I do as far as results, because I keep pushing myself.
Hmm.
I've taken pictures that are phenomenal. Yes, that's great. But I always feel like I could do better. And if you always feel like you could do better, you're constantly bettering yourself. You're constantly pushing yourself a little further to do even more, and to learn more, and to try new things. And you have to do that. You gotta just get out there and just do your thing, do what you like to do, and make the most out of it. You only live once.
Are there any like downside? So we talked about obviously the major change from soul sucking corporate life
Mm-hmm.
to now doing something that you love, and we've talked about maybe some of the challenges that you've had to overcome in that transition. But are there any downsides that I think a lot of people fantasize about starting a business or doing whatever it is that they're
Mm-hmm.
passionate about, trying to find a way to do it for, have a business or do it for a living. But have you encountered anything that you're like, I didn't really expect this to be a problem? And I guess things that people who maybe want to do something similar should be aware of, that, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows. You're right. There are times when things go wrong. Um, I've done headshots. I'm doing headshots for people for a long time, and then recently I had to do a headshot at a law group, and they weren't able to shut the lights off because I had my own lights.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden, the lighting is completely different. I'm taking pictures, and there's a time constraint. There's no time to fool around. These are lawyers; they got to get back to work. So I'm taking these pictures as best I can, and and then I come back and I put them on the computer and I'm looking at them, and everything is yellow, like really yellow. And I'm like, oh, it's from the damn lights.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think of that. That's something. So now I have to compensate for it on the back end with the Photoshop and get rid of it. So that's different obstacles. But I always try to be prepared. I don't go to a shoot with just one camera. I go to a shoot with three cameras, because God forbid one of them breaks. I mean, I've had I had a photo shoot with somebody. I remember this. I had a headshot with somebody. Came to my studio at my house in my basement that I use, and he sits down. We're all ready, and I take the camera. I put it on the tripod. I go to get something. I didn't put it on correctly. I hit the tripod. Camera falls over, hits the floor. I pick it up. I'm like, all right, it looks like everything's all right. I go to take a picture, and it's half black, half a picture.
Mm.
Something inside was wrong. I don't have a backup camera now. This is when I was first getting started. I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do now? So I just I felt bad. The guy came. I was like, so I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do now to rectify this situation? So I said to the client, I'm so sorry this happened, and I apologize for taking up your time, and now I can't take your photos. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and I'm going to order today. I'm going to order another, go on Amazon. I'm going to get another camera. I will, it's up to you. I said, I can either come to your office or you can come back here again and I won't charge you a dime. And you can keep every single picture I take of you. And he was like, that's fine. I understand. No problem. So I was being honest with him, and I wasn't being greedy. I was just doing what's best for the
Right.
client. And that's the way I always work it. It's always the client. If the client is not happy, I won't charge him. If you're not happy, then I'm not charging you anything. But that was an obstacle I had to overcome. And in an instant, I'm like, okay, now what am I going to say to this guy? I got to look this guy in the eye, and I got to say something to him that's not going to piss him off, and that's fair. And that's what I came up with. And it worked out fine. And he recommended me to other people as well afterwards. He loved the way his photos came out,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't charge him a dime because of what happened. It wasn't his fault that I knocked over my camera and it broke. Um, so that's some of the obstacles. Some of the other obstacles is that when I first got started, like I said, was I got a mortgage to pay. What am I going to do? So my answer was, let me find something flexible, and I did Uber. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use Uber as a way to get clients, and I get my business cards visible to everybody when they got into the car, and people look at it. What's this? Is this somebody's? I was like, no, that's my cards. Oh, you're a photographer. I'm like, yeah, I'm starting my own business. I'm just doing this on the side, paying the bills while I'm building up my business. And people understand that. People, especially in today's day and age, everybody wants to be their own boss.
Yeah.
So when they understand that you're doing the same thing, like, all right, I can deal with that. That sounds pretty cool. And I would get clients that way. So it's about being flexible and being able to pivot on the dime when you have to.
Yeah, it sounds like for me one of the like kind of takeaways that I'm getting from that is if you want to take this risk and start your own business, whatever it is that you want to do, you have to be aware that you're going to have bad days. You're going to have problems that might seem like the world is ending in that moment. Because
Hmm.
I mean, especially in the age of social media, you see a lot of people that it looks like they just live a beautiful, amazing life. And
Hmm.
you see these people making all this money and they seem very happy and they're traveling and trips and
Hmm.
cars and all that stuff. Um, but you don't see the inevitable problems and bad days and times where you have a problem that comes up and there's no boss, and if you're just starting out you might not even have like a team or anyone else that you can
Hmm.
bounce these ideas off of. It's just you and you got to figure it out for yourself. And I think that it's important for people to understand and like I mean it's something that you really can't understand until you experience it, but really try to wrap your head around before you decide that this is something that I want to do.
Right.
You have to try to understand all the bad things that could happen and want
Hmm.
to do it anyway
Right.
before you make that jump. Because like I think for myself, largely I did came out of college, got into my own business, and kind of I think in my head I understood it would take hard work and that there would be challenges, but
Hmm.
I kind of thought like in 6 to 12 months I'll be doing great. Like it's going to be
Hmm.
a linear path straight to the top,
Yep.
no ups and downs, and that's never going to be the
No,
case.
I think a lot of kids these days think that I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to make millions of dollars, and it's going to happen right away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not reality.
Yeah.
That's not the way the world works. And
And it could be,
it
but
could be, but that's very
you can't bank
minuscule.
on that. You can't
Right.
expect it.
You have to have a backup plan. Like, when I started my photography, I didn't do just the photography. I needed a backup. I needed the Uber job to help pay the bills so that I could be a responsible adult and pay my bills.
Yeah.
And you have to have a backup plan when you do things. Um, I mean, I know it doesn't fit with a lot of the thinking today, but I'm a big proponent of going to college. Now, it doesn't have to be college because college isn't for everybody, but maybe a trade.
Mm.
Have something as a backup. And I remember my parents saying that to me. I wanted to go to college. Believe it or not, I wanted to go to college to be an actor. I was like, I'm going to be an actor. That's what I want to do. And my parents are like, no, we are not spending money on college for you to be an actor and spend the rest of your days bartending in the city trying to get an acting gig. But you could do the acting courses while you're there, but you need to get a different major. You need to get a major. So that's why I went to the graphic design because that was the other thing I liked. Like I mentioned about the salespeople and all. So I had that backup plan. And when I got at home, my friend and I, he was in the theater with me in high school. We went into the city. We got ourselves an agent, and I started doing extra work on a TV show, in a commercial, and I was so excited.
Yeah.
I had stars in my eyes, um, and I would be on the set for like 10 hours, and I loved it. Action, and the camera's going, the lights are there, and I'm like, this is where I want to be. And then at the end of the day, here's your $60. Like I got paid $6 an hour, and I'm like, okay. And my parents are like, we're going to give you a year. We'll give you a year. Give it a shot. After a year, you got to start paying rent because they wanted me to become a responsible adult.
Sure.
And so I was like, all right. So after a year, it turns out that the agent that we had was just a crappy. All they did was just push people to be extras, and that was it. So I never really made it as an actor. I did acting in community theater. There's a place called it was called the Stage. I think it's now called the Theater on Sunrise Highway, and I think it's Merrick or Wantagh. And I did acting on the side. I had my own, and I got my penny saver job, and then at night I do the acting, and then they have the shows on the weekends, and I enjoyed it. But you always have the backup plan. I was always dreaming, and I was a dreamer. I still am a dreamer. That somebody would have seen me and be like, "I need you in my next movie." Of course, it never happened. The odds of that happening are minuscule. I wasn't in reality, and there's that saying, "You don't know what you don't know."
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know about how life was going to be until you do it. And the only way you're going to learn in life is live it. And I gave up on the acting and then did other stuff. And now I went. What's my second passion? Now is photography. So after working in corporate and doing my thing, it's like now it's time to stick with what I want to do and be happy. But it wasn't easy. It's not easy. It still isn't easy. It's not going to happen overnight. But you got to have a backup plan. Have something while if you're starting your business. If you have to do Uber, do Uber. If you have, bartend, bartend. Do what you got to do. If you want to if you're passionate enough about getting your business off the ground, then you're going to do what you got to do to get by, and do it in a way that you can put your effort to getting your business off the ground.
Right.
Because you can't just sit here and say, I'm going to start my own business. Unless you're at home and you're not paying rent, you got to learn responsibilities at some point. I mean, I remember being so pissed off. My parents were like, okay, now you got to start paying rent. I'm like, great. I got to give my parents money. Well, you're always giving me money my whole life. If I needed money, I went to you. Now I have to give you money. And I was pissed off about that. But now as an adult, and I look back, that's how my parents were teaching me to be a responsible adult. I think every kid, if you're not in college, or if let's say you get out of college, or you get out of high school and you don't go to college and you start working, you should pay rent, because that's going to teach you, and no one wants to do it, but it's going to teach you responsibility, especially financial responsibility, how to spend your money. Because it took me a long time to figure out how to spend my money. Up until almost, let's say, 5 years ago, I was not good with how I saved and spent. I spent more than I should. Um, but you got to learn that lesson, and I think it's very important for the kids to get out there today and just, you know, work hard, if as hard as you can. Give it 100%. If you fail, you fail. But like I said, paying rent is a way of just teaching kids how to be responsible, and how to be an adult, because you can't always go back to your parents.
All right. Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough that if I needed to, my parents were there to help me, and they had to at times.
Mm-hmm.
When I got divorced, you know, uh, I lost the house and I had credit card debt, and my parents helped bail me out. I was lucky. I'm not fortunate, and I appreciate that every day, that what my parents had done for me. But most people don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to start your own business, at least have something bringing in some income on the side, and then use that as your advantage to push that business forward.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough line to walk as a parent, because obviously as a parent, probably if you have the capability to, I mean, I'll use the word coddle your children. Not, I don't necessarily mean coddle, but support your children.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's probably what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the flip side, there's being too harsh, and I'm all for, if you're able to give your kids opportunities to chase
Mm-hmm.
their dreams and do this or that, then I see no issue with that.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you see that they're actually working and they understand what it is that
Mm-hmm.
that they're getting themselves into and what it's going to take. But it is, I can imagine. I'm not a parent, but it's a very hard being the good cop and the bad cop at the same time.
And I'm a step parent.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any kids of my own, which makes it even more difficult.
Right.
Because I love my
Yeah,
two step kids. I love them to death. I really do. And I want to see them do well. And when they don't do well, you want to be there to help them, pick them up, and you want to support them. But at the same time, if you're seeing them making bad decisions, you got to point that out. And I think a lot of kids are just, like you said, coddled. I mean, going to little league games and watching these kids play and be like, who won? Oh no, we don't keep score.
Mm.
Well, so you're not learning how to lose.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to lose. If how are you going to handle going to your first interview and getting denied?
Right.
I had somebody recently tell me that they had set up an interview with a kid, and he asked if he could bring his mother along. What? You want? And he's like, you know what? You don't have to worry about bringing your mother along, because we're not going to have you come in for an interview after a question like that. Can I bring my mom along? I mean, that's what's happening in society.
What's the point? I mean, how's that even helpful?
Right. And it's, you got to, I think today, I mean, I know it sounds old school, but I think like we have to go back to some old school values in some ways. Right. You got to teach your kids how to lose. and you got to teach them responsibility, and you got to get punished if they do something wrong. You know, they have to learn that actions have consequences,
Mhm.
and it's because yeah, actions have consequences within the home, but that translates into the real world too. You know, you got to learn how to talk to somebody properly. You can't tell your boss he's an idiot when you think he's an idiot.
Sure.
You could tell your sister you're an idiot. You know,
Hmm.
that's fine. You know, but there's no consequences. In the real world, you can't act like that. You can't do things like that. You can't bring your mother to an interview. You can't, you know, you say, well, my mom said, you know, no, no, this is the real world now, people. Let's get with it. I think a lot of in the newer generations, they don't have that sense of discipline, I guess is a word.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm more of a disciplinary. Like I think, you know, you do something wrong, there should be, you lie to us about something, there should be a consequence for it.
Mm.
You know, if you're honest with us and you know, with the kids, if you're honest with us, then we'll support you. And we've had this conversation with the stuff kids. Just be honest with us. There's nothing you're going to do in life that we haven't already done, and I don't think they understand that because I didn't understand it as a kid either. My parents are like, "Yeah, I've been there." I'm like, "No, you haven't." Oh, I. It's just a repeat. It's just a repeat of the generation before. There's nothing. I tell my stepdaughter, there's nothing that you could do in life that I probably haven't done or screwed up or made mistakes, and I've screwed up a lot in life. I mean, life's about screwing up. Life's about making mistakes because if you don't make mistakes, you're never going to learn. You're never going to grow. And I think some kids in this generation don't understand that, and they don't understand that there's consequences for the things you do. So they feel entitled, and then once you feel entitled, you can't take that kind of attitude into the workforce because if you feel like you're entitled, people are going to look at you and be like, "That person's a pompous ass. I don't want to deal with them."
Hmm.
And I think it's important that there's some old school things that we still need to install in not only the kids but in our future business leaders. That there's consequences for what
Yeah.
you do. Look what just happened at the Coldplay concert. Okay, here's a guy who's a CEO,
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
right? He's a CEO. He must have worked his ass off to get to that point in life. But my question is, do you understand actions and consequences? Because here you are having an affair with a married woman who also works in your company, and now you just got caught.
And I mean, you came to a public place
Public
where
place.
everyone knows that when you go to a game or a concert or an event or
Yeah.
whatever it was,
They've got the kiss cam
they
thing.
put the camera around.
Yes,
They look at people in the crowd.
exactly. But before they even got to that point, when you met this woman, did you ever think that there's going to be consequences for my actions?
Yeah,
I'm married and have a family. She's married, has a family.
it's true.
What are the consequences of what we do? It's going to either be we end up getting divorced and getting married and start our own family, but that's going to cause a lot of drama, a lot of heartache, and it'll cost you a lot of money. Or do you just control yourself and just ignore this attraction you may have with somebody else and stick with the life you built for yourself? Because he built it all up. And he didn't realize that now not only are you screwing up your family, you just screwed up your career.
Yeah, totally.
He just resigned from his job, and I think she did as well. So now you've worked your ass off to be a CEO of a company just because you can't keep your thing in your pants,
Mhm.
right? I mean, there's
It's
actions and
true.
there's consequences.
Yeah,
And, when I deal with my clients, it's the same thing. I have to make sure client's always right. I keep telling myself, the client's always right. If the client wants something some way and I think it's completely wrong, I'll express to them. I don't think that's a great idea. But if that's what you want, then that's what I'm going to give you because I'm not going to come across as someone who's going to be pompous and make it more difficult for them. So, these are the kind of things in business you learn over the years. Client's always right. Give them what they want. If you give them what they want and they don't like the way it came out, you can always say, well, I was really wanted to go in this direction, but you didn't want to do that. If you want, we can do it again, and try it my way. Um, Try not to be like, I know everything because you don't know everything.
yeah, yeah.
I've had clients say, I have an idea, I want to do a picture, and then they're like, you know what, I want to do something like this, and I'm thinking, it doesn't look right to me. And I had a guy who had a headshot. He wanted a headshot, no light on one side,
Mhm.
no light. It's all going to be dark. He wanted it that way. I'm looking at his face, and I'm like, I don't think so. I'm like, you know what? If that's what you want, that's what we'll do. And we did it. And guess what? It came out great because I did the best job I could do. And I took what he wanted and used my skills and gave him what he wanted because I listened to him. And it worked out all right because you're not always going to be right. And I learned something new at the same time. Open minded about it. That's, that's important to be open minded, to listen, try new things. And I don't know, it came out really well.
That's great. That's great. Well, look, Lou, I mean, I think it's amazing what you've done. I think there's a lot of people out there that probably really like, every day dream about doing something similar. They hate their job and they want to try out something that maybe is a little bit more fulfilling to them. So hopefully someone can see this
I hope
and
so. Yeah, don't give
and maybe
up.
get a little inspiration because it's hard when you don't know anyone that's done it.
Yeah, it's true.
And so I think, and that's one of the things that I want to do with this podcast is show people who maybe have done something in the lines of what other people are looking to do and show that it can be done. So
Yeah, be happy. And the biggest thing is don't quit. Don't quit. If you have a side job that's helping you do it, don't quit that side job unless you've got something else set up.
mhm.
But don't quit on your dream of what you want to do. Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Keep focusing on it, but be reasonable. Like like I said, I was a dreamer.
Hmm.
I always dreamed of being an actor and being famous and all that stuff. And I'm still a dreamer, but I dreamt of having my business. But you got to take those dreams and you got to mix it in with reality and come up with a game plan. And don't quit on that game plan. So my game plan was I'm going to start this business. I'm going to do stuff on the side to make money in the meantime, and I'm going to do what I can to get more business, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to push it, and I'm not going to quit. I'm just not going to quit.
Hmm.
Because I know kids today, they go through 5, 6 different jobs in a year or two, and okay, that's fine, but you need income and you want to get your dream going. Don't quit. Have a plan. Have a backup plan. Pretend you're not living in your parents' house. Pretend you're living on your own and you have to pay your own bills. Are you going to quit that job that's your only income just to start your own business? Or are you going to keep that job and focus on your business and
Hmm.
help the money you make from one job, put it towards the other and focus
Right.
and don't quit
Yeah.
and just do what you got to do. It's not going to be easy. You think I enjoyed doing Uber? The things that happened in the back of my car, let me tell you,
I can imagine.
I could tell you stories that they could put in penthouse form in my car just from what I've seen in the back of my people, the back of my car doing Uber. I don't enjoy doing it. You think I like picking up people that are drunk or throwing up on themselves in my car? No, but I just kept saying, I'm not doing this for this. I'm doing this for this.
Mhm.
I'm doing this to get
Right.
my business going. So I'm going to stick with it and make the money I need to make and then use that opportunity to move my business forward. And just do something you enjoy doing.
Yeah,
Just
and I
enjoy it.
think the key there is staying focused on that why, and
Mm-hmm.
like not losing yourself in, oh, well, I hate this one thing that I have to do. I wish I could just do the other thing,
Mm-hmm.
but tying the two together and understanding that this one thing that I have to do that sucks is necessary. And so in a way,
Mm-hmm.
you might think, oh, well, I wish I could spend all my time working on my passion or my business, but in a way you are
Yes,
already because you need to be doing that other thing.
exactly.
So
That's
yeah,
exactly it.
well,
You
awesome,
are
man.
doing everything you do is towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on.
Hey,
It's
thanks
it's
for
been a
having me.
pleasure. Yep,
I enjoyed
absolutely.
this. This is great.